Good morning, everyone. So, um, a particular moment that arrives in the aftermath of separation, and it's not the moment of the ending itself, it's later, sometimes much later. It's the moment when the person who walked away, who chose distance, who convinced themselves they were making the right decision, finally feels the full weight of what they've lost. And you might be sensing that this moment is unfolding for someone in your past right now. This isn't about them suddenly missing you. That's surface level, that's the easy part. This is deeper. This is the slow, creeping recognition that you're not coming back, that the door they thought would always be open has closed, that the version of you who would have waited, who would have taken them back without question, who would have made space for their indecision, that version no longer exists. And they're beginning to understand what that means. It may feel as though there's been a shift in their energy recently, not that they've reached out directly, or maybe they have in small tentative ways, but something in the atmosphere between you has changed. Like they're finally waking up from whatever story they told themselves about why leaving was necessary. Like the fog is lifting and they're seeing clearly for the first time what was actually there and what they walked away from. Some of you might notice this as a heaviness, an awareness that they're carrying regret in ways they weren't before, that the lightness they expected to feel after choosing themselves, after creating distance, after pursuing whatever they thought they needed is less than hash a zero. 5 hash is greater than it never came. And in its place is something much harder to sit with. This reflection invites you to consider, what do you notice when you think about this person now? And does their absence feel lighter or heavier than it did before? Um, there's a specific kind of loss that only becomes real when it's irreversible, when someone can still reach you, when you're still responsive, when the possibility of return exists. The loss isn't fully felt, it's theoretical, it's something they can revisit if they change their mind. But when that possibility closes, when they sense that you've truly moved beyond them, that's when the reality hits. And it's possible they're experiencing that now. The understanding that you're not frozen in time waiting for them, that you've continued growing, healing, becoming someone new, someone they no longer have access to, someone who exists in a version of life that doesn't include them anymore. There's also something about comparison happening. They might be looking at what they have now, the situations they're in, the people they're encountering, the way their life has unfolded since you, and finding it lacking. Not necessarily because it's objectively worse, but because it's not you. Because whatever they thought they'd find or feel or become without you hasn't materialized the way they imagined. And in those moments of comparison, in those quiet times when they're honest with themselves, your absence becomes loud. The space you used to occupy becomes obvious, and they start to wonder if they made a mistake they can't undo. It can seem as if they're finally seeing what they couldn't see when you were still there. The way you showed up, the way you loved, the way you held space for them even when they didn't deserve it. All the things that felt ordinary or expected or not enough at the time, they're starting to look extraordinary in hindsight. Because now they know what it's like to not have those things, to not have you. And that knowledge, that contrast between what was and what is, it creates a kind of ache that doesn't go away easily. This reflection invites you to consider if this person is truly understanding what they lost. Does that change anything for you, or have you already moved beyond needing their recognition? But here's what's important for you to understand: their realization, their regret, their belated recognition of your value, none of that is a gift to you. It's not something you earned or should feel validated by. It's simply them finally catching up to what you already knew, what you tried to show them, what was available to them all along, but they were too closed or afraid or confused to receive. And you don't owe them anything just because they're finally seeing clearly. You don't owe them forgiveness or access or another chance. Their awakening is their journey. What you do with it, if anything, is entirely yours to decide. Some of you might feel a sense of satisfaction in this, a quiet, I told you so, that feels earned after everything you went through, after being the one who tried harder, who held on longer, who believed in something they couldn't see the value in. And that feeling, that vindication, it's human, it's natural. But be careful not to let it keep you tethered to someone who's already proven they're not capable of meeting you where you are. Because satisfaction from their regret still centers them in your emotional landscape, and you've worked too hard to rebuild yourself to let them occupy that space again. There's also the possibility that they might try to reach back to test whether the door is truly closed, to see if there's any opening for them to slip back into your life. And those attempts, if they come, might be subtle, indirect, wrapped in casual language that hides the desperation underneath. And you'll have to decide in those moments whether you want to engage or whether you'd rather protect the peace you've built in their absence. It may feel as though they're hoping you'll save them from their own regret, that you'll make it easy for them to undo what they did, that you'll be the one to extend grace so they don't have to sit with the consequences of their choices. But you're not responsible for making their discomfort more bearable. This reflection invites you to consider what would need to be true for you to even consider letting this person back into your life in any capacity. The truth is, losing you might be the most important lesson they ever learn. Not because you're perfect or because they'll never find connection elsewhere, but because the way they lost you, through their own choices, their own fear, their own inability to recognize what was in front of them, is less than hash zero. 5 hash is greater than. That's the kind of loss that teaches people something about themselves, about how they show up, about what they're willing to risk and what they take for granted. And if they're truly feeling that loss now, if they're sitting with the reality of it, that's their work to do, their growth to navigate, their karma to process. You've already done your part. You showed up, you loved, you tried, and when it ended, you did the hard work of healing, of rebuilding, of becoming someone who doesn't need their validation or their return to feel whole. And that self-reclamation is the real victory here, not their regret, but your freedom from needing it to mean anything. So let them sit with what they've lost. Let them feel the full weight of their choices. And you keep moving forward. Keep building the life that feels true to who you are now. Keep honoring the version of yourself that survived their leaving and became stronger because of it. They lost you, and you found yourself. That's the only karma that matters.